Go.
This is Unit 4, Week 3, question number 8. What were the poll taxes, literacy tests, grandfather clauses? All of these were strategies to deny the newly freed slaves access to voting. The 14th Amendment guaranteed them citizenship, supposedly voting. Congress then passed the 15th Amendment, which no state shall deny right to vote based on race. Essentially meant black men were eligible to vote. So, many states, southern states especially, set about all kinds of systems to prevent or restrict them from voting without violating the equal protection that it applied to everyone. So first example were poll taxes, like this receipt. They would charge people money to vote. Of course, it hit those who were more impoverished harder than those who were not. However, even the poll workers didn't always collect the poll tax consistently from blacks versus non-blacks. Plus, if you didn't vote in one election, say you missed it for one or two, then you'd have to pay all 3 or 4 of the previous elections to be able to vote. But it applies equally to everyone, was the theory. But it was a discriminatory practice. Largely it had fallen away by the early 20th century, but officially was banned in the 24th Amendment to the United States Constitution in the early 60s. Literacy tests applied to everyone equally. You had to take a test to prove you could read and write in order to vote. These, again, were not always applied equally, and of course, who judges the test? But clear into the early 1960s, 100 years after the Civil War, some southern states still had tests requiring you to read and write. Some people would argue today that's something you ought to be able to do to vote, but constitutionally, these are overturned as an unfair restriction on people's right to vote. It doesn't say you have to be educated. And grandfather clauses. These are the dumbest thing ever. They apply to everyone equally. If your grandfather could not vote, then you can't. So of course all of the freed slaves, their grandfathers were slaves, so they couldn't vote. Theoretically, by the time the 21-year-old is a grandfather, he's never been able to vote, so his grandkids can't. This was a really discriminatory act, about as slimy as you can get. Mostly had died away by the late 19th century, end of the 1800s. But all of these are attempts to prevent blacks from having access to vote. However, the most effective one of all was fear. Ku Klux Klan, violent fear, prevented people from participating in politics altogether. And that's it from some guy in a low-op print shirt.